Crime committed by Tatsuya Ichihashi was so heinous and calculated that it brought shock and despair not only to Japan, but also to another nation. Lindsay Hawker, a 22-year-old English teacher, had traveled to Tokyo for a new adventure, but little did she know what awaited her. Her killer went to great lengths to hide his true identity, even undergoing plastic surgery to deform his face. This case is full of strange and disturbing details, including a flower pot and a body. It took police years to capture the suspect, making him one of the most wanted men in Japan. It's a story that has been documented in a best-selling memoir and adapted into a movie. Despite his attempts to remain hidden, he became a cult hero to some people. Our thoughts and sympathies go out to the loved ones of Lindsay Hawker, whose lives were forever changed by this senseless tragedy. Brace yourselves for this disturbing and unforgettable story. This story takes us to Tokyo, Japan, a bustling metropolis and one of the most exciting cities in the world. Known for its unique blend of traditional and modern culture, Tokyo offers visitors a glimpse into Japan's rich history and its cutting-edge technology. From towering skyscrapers to ancient temples, Tokyo has something for everyone. The city is also famous for its incredible food scene, ranging from traditional sushi and ramen to innovative fusion cuisine. After graduation, Lindsay decided to take a year off to travel and gain a new perspective before pursuing her master's degree. So in October 2007, 22-year-old Lindsay Hawker arrived in Tokyo, ready to start her new job at the Tokyo branch of Nova, Japan's largest private English school. Lindsay had grown up in a town near Coventry in Warwickshire, England, surrounded by a loving family. Her parents, Bill and Julia, along with her two sisters, had nurtured her with care and support. Lindsay was a vibrant soul, known for her contagious zest for life, but she was more than just a ball of energy. She was a high achiever too. Her intelligence and ambition propelled her to earn a first-class honors degree in biology from the prestigious University of Leeds in the summer of 2007. After years of intense study, Lindsay was ready for a change. She longed to explore the world, and with her boyfriend of 4 years, Ryan Garside, by her side, she set out to make her dreams a reality. Their plan was simple. Lindsay would kick off their global adventure, heading to Tokyo to teach English, and Ryan would join her the following summer. It was a thrilling prospect, but nothing could have prepared Lindsay for the enigma that awaited her in the land of the rising sun. Nevertheless, she adapted seamlessly to her new life, quickly forming a deep bond with her two roommates in their cozy apartment. Her employers at Nova were also pleased with her commitment and dedication. Lindsay made sure to keep her family and friends back home up to date on her Tokyo escapades. In one of her emails to her sisters, she even remarked how safe and secure the city felt, much more so than her hometown in Britain. However, on the fateful morning of March 25th, Lindsay packed her tote bag with her teaching materials, hugged her roommates goodbye, and cycled to work. Little did she realize that it would be her last day. It was March 26, 2007, at precisely 2:30 p.m., when Lindsay's father received the call that would shatter their world. A staff member from the Nova Language School informed him that Lindsay had missed her classes for 2 consecutive days. Her roommates had already raised the alarm after she failed to return home from work the previous evening. Unfortunately, the message had not been relayed to the appropriate authorities within the department. Lindsay's family was in anguish. Her father wasted no time in booking a flight to Tokyo for himself and Lindsay's boyfriend, Ryan. As they arrived at Lindsay's apartment, officers were already on the scene, trying to piece together the events that had led to her disappearance. With crucial information from Lindsay's roommates and Ryan, a harrowing picture began to emerge. 6 days prior, on March 20th, Lindsay had been on her way home from a night out at a bar called Hippy Dippy Doo when a stranger approached her on the train. Despite his claims of being one of her students, Lindsay Hawker knew all of her students, and the man who approached her on the train that fateful night was not one of them. Polite but cautious, Lindsay excused herself and disembarked at her station. She had almost reached her apartment on her bike when she spotted the stranger jogging quickly behind her. It was clear that he had followed her all the way from the train station and now stood at her doorstep. He asked her again if she recognized him, and though a little unnerved, Lindsay reiterated that she did not. The man then explained that he was hoping to study abroad and was in desperate need of an English tutor. He asked for a glass of water, and Lindsay, thinking he was just enthusiastic and perhaps a little eccentric, invited him inside her apartment where her roommates were present. Once inside, the man, who called himself Tatsuya Ichihashi, proceeded to sketch a portrait of Lindsay and signed it with his name, phone number, and email address. Officers scoured Lindsay's room and discovered the sketch given to her by the strange man, Tatsuya Ichihashi. Despite her roommate's warning, Lindsay agreed to meet him for an English lesson at the Du Tour Cafe on March 20th. It was the last time she was seen alive. Her last Facebook message to her family and friends on the same day read, "Love you lots. Don't worry about the guy who chased me home. It's just crazy Japan. Miss you." On March 25th morning, police retrieved surveillance footage from the cafe that captured Lindsay and Ichihashi sitting together for 50 minutes as she taught him English. Lindsay appears uneasy, constantly tucking her hair behind her ear as they ordered drinks. As Lindsay and Ichihashi got ready to leave the cafe, he suddenly started a fake search for his money, pretending he couldn't find it, which was all part of a plan. They exited together and got into a taxi. Little did Lindsay know, the man she just got into a cab with had been stalking her for months. He was a 28-year-old living alone in a 3-bedroom apartment, which his wealthy parents had bought for him in the Shiga Prefecture, an eastern suburb of Tokyo. Though both of his parents were accomplished professionals, a dentist and a brain surgeon, Ichihashi had not inherited their intelligence or drive. After attending Shiba University under pressure from his parents, he graduated with a degree in horticulture, but had never pursued a career in the field. Instead, he had spent the past 2 years living off his parents' allowance, until his obsession with Lindsay drove him to commit a heinous act. When 2 officers arrived at his apartment on the evening of March 26th, little did they know what horrors they would uncover inside. Tatsuya's life was full of contradictions. Despite being labeled a loner and hikikomori, a word used in the Japanese culture to describe someone who suffers extreme degrees of social isolation, he managed to find a girlfriend during his time in college. However, his dark side was hidden from most people, as he was obsessed with violent manga and had a history of troubling behavior. Just 2 years before, he had attacked and attempted to rob a woman on the street, which was settled out of court by his parents. In college, he had been warned for stalking a woman. But perhaps the most surprising aspect of Tatsuya's story is that his girlfriend described their relationship as stable and serious, even visiting him regularly during his early years in prison. Tatsuya was known for his dedication to physical fitness, spending hours each day at the gym and cycling long distances. Despite all this, his mental health began to deteriorate in 2007, leaving those who knew him wondering what had caused his descent into darkness. Tatsuya had a feeling that he was losing control of his mind, but did anyone listen? No one knows. Instead, he developed an unhealthy fixation on a random stranger, a young British English teacher named Lindsay Hawker. Reports suggest that Tatsuya had been stalking Lindsay for months before finally mustering the courage to approach her on a train. He noticed the logo for the English language school on her bag and used it as a pretext to strike up a conversation. But that was just the beginning. Tatsuya's obsession with Lindsay took a dark turn when he lured her to his apartment in Ichikawa under the guise of having no money. It was just a 5-minute drive away, and Lindsay even asked the taxi driver to wait for her outside while she went in to collect the money. 7 minutes later, the driver left without her, and she was never seen alive again. It's a tragic tale of a chance encounter that turned into a nightmare, and a reminder that sometimes the people we think we know best can be hiding the darkest secrets. The tension was palpable as the police waited outside Tatsuya's apartment, unable to knock without cause under Japanese law. They had called for backup, knowing his history of stalking and robbery. By 8:00 p.m., 9 officers had assembled, strategically placed on the ground floor and outside his 4th-floor apartment. But then, 2 hours after the last officer arrived, Tatsuya burst out of his apartment. He was barefoot, with a backpack slung over his shoulder. Several officers pursued him closely, but Tatsuya was too fast, vaulting the last stairway to the ground and sprinting into the street. With adrenaline pumping, he zigzagged through the streets, narrowly escaping the officers in pursuit. It was the closest they would come to capturing him for the next 2 years. Meanwhile, the whereabouts of Lindsay was discovered much sooner. As the police carefully searched Tatsuya's apartment, a disturbing sight greeted them on the balcony, a bathtub filled with a gruesome mixture of sand and compost. A potted plant sat nearby, as if Tatsuya had been interrupted before he could complete his task. But the most chilling discovery came when officers noticed a small white hand protruding from the mixture. Neighbors reported hearing a heavy scraping sound the night before, undoubtedly the sound of Tatsuya dragging his bathtub onto the balcony. And when the police uncovered the source of the hand, their worst fears were confirmed. It was Lindsay's naked body. She had been bound and gagged with gardening ties and a scarf, her upper body covered in bruises that suggested a savage and prolonged attack. Both Tatsuya and Lindsay were trained in martial arts, but in the end, she was no match for his superior strength. The viciousness of the attack was evident in the excised bruises on Lindsay's face, indicating repeated blows from a clenched fist, and the lesser marks on her upper body, suggesting collisions with furniture. The extent of the brutality was further revealed by the broken cartilage in her neck, a grim testament to the force with which she was strangled. Her head had been shaved, and her hair was found in a plastic bag nearby. For Lindsay's parents, the news was a gut-wrenching shock. The trip they had taken to find their daughter had turned into a search for her remains, and the call they received at 3:00 a.m. on March 27th was one no parent should ever have to answer. When Bill, Lindsay's father, saw her body, he knew it was his daughter, but the sight was almost too much to bear. "My life, my soul, just fell from beneath me," he said. As the investigation into Lindsay's murder ramped up, the search for her attacker was on. Wanted posters featuring the image of Tatsuya flooded Tokyo, as the authorities worked tirelessly to bring the perpetrator to justice. It was a nationwide manhunt. The hunt for Tatsuya Ichihashi had taken on a life of its own, with 30,000 posters distributed across the country. Some images showed him in chilling disguises, including as a woman, and his face was broadcast on national and international news channels. The response was overwhelming, with sightings pouring in from all over Japan. The red light district of Kabukicho became a focus of the search, but despite multiple leads, Tatsuya remained elusive. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. By October 2008, 140 officers were assigned to the investigation, but even with 8,000 reported sightings and widespread media coverage, Tatsuya remained at large. The Hawker family, desperate for any information, launched a website appealing for help, but it seemed like there was no end in sight. As time dragged on, Tatsuya's parents came under wrongful suspicion from the public. Despite their silence, their connection to their son was enough to turn public opinion against them. The investigation was stalling, and hope was fading fast. The hunt for Tatsuya Ichihashi had become a national obsession, but it seemed like he had vanished into thin air. The plea was desperate, and it came from the one person who loved him unconditionally. Tatsuya Ichihashi's mother had had enough, and she called a daytime television program to make a plea to her son. In an emotional audio message, she urged him to turn himself in to the police. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she and Tatsuya's father had decided to speak out about their feelings. Later, the couple appeared on national television to apologize for their son's heinous crime. As the second anniversary of Lindsay Hawker's murder approached, the police were still no closer to finding Tatsuya. In a bid to raise awareness, they printed out cardboard cutouts of him and placed them around the city. The Hawker family returned to Tokyo to plead for information about their daughter's killer, and the police increased the reward for information, leading to Tatsuya's arrest tenfold. But amid the desperation and grief, something far more sinister was brewing. Online fan clubs began to pop up all over the internet, glorifying Tatsuya as a hero and an outlaw. As the manhunt for Tatsuya Ichihashi continued, his notoriety grew beyond his crime. He became a cultural phenomenon, known by various nicknames, including the fugitive Sullen Prince and Lord Ichi, and even gained a fanbase among young males. Online support groups and blogs glorified the murderer, but little did anyone know that his appearance had drastically changed in the 2 years since his wanted posters were plastered across Japan. In his best-selling memoir, Tatsuya revealed that he initially wandered Tokyo penniless and passportless, seeking refuge among tramps in the Ibukuri prefecture. It wasn't until he saw his face on countless wanted posters that he understood the extent of the manhunt. From then on, he lived as a fugitive, constantly on the move, wearing hats and glasses to conceal his face and avoiding surveillance cameras. As the years passed, he became more and more unrecognizable, leading police on a frustratingly elusive pursuit. With the nationwide manhunt for him gaining momentum, he couldn't risk contacting anyone close to him, so he decided to change his appearance. He didn't trust anyone to help him, so he took matters into his own hands. Armed with a box cutter and scissors, he sliced off the prominent moles on his left cheek and thinned out his lower lip. The pain was unbearable, but he persisted until he was satisfied with the result. He even sewed up his nose to make it appear narrower. He wore multiple surgical masks while his face healed and traveled south to embark on a journey of temples on the southwestern island of Shikoku. Tatsuya was a man on the run, determined to remain elusive and out of reach of the law. His guilt over the murder weighed heavy on him, and he sought redemption by embarking on a mission to temples in Shikoku. There he prayed fervently for the victim's resurrection, inspired by a novel he had read. The fear of being recognized haunted him, pushing him to extreme measures to change his appearance. He turned to a plastic surgeon, using a dead man's identity to fund the costly procedures. Using the man's identity, he took a job at a construction site in Osaka. After working for 13 months and saving up a substantial amount, he underwent 2 surgeries to transform his nose, but he made sure to avoid any potential traces by using false information and failing to return for any follow-up appointments in clinics. Colleagues later said he was a loner and a mystery, often retreating to his room at the company's dormitory to indulge in comics and videos, and he never removed his signature red cap and black-rimmed glasses. Even at company outings, he shied away from the group, hiding behind a colleague in photos. We joked about his peculiar behavior, but no one suspected a thing. That is until a former coworker revealed he had been saving money for cosmetic surgery. As he tried to erase his identity, Tatsuya's attempts to change his appearance ultimately led to his downfall. Seeking a new mouth shape in Fukuoka, followed by a nose uplift in Nagoya, it was the strange scars on his left cheek, where he had removed his moles with box cutters, that caught the clinic's attention. The police had a break in the case when a clinic reported a suspicious man who had undergone plastic surgery, providing photos as evidence. It was Tatsuya, and on November 4th, 2009, the police released the images to the media, causing a frenzy across Japan. Tatsuya's new face was drastically altered, with 2 prominent moles on his left cheek now missing, and a slender nose and eyelids sporting a double fold. In his memoir, Tatsuya recounted the terror he felt upon seeing his new image on TV, leading him to quickly purchase a party disguise set, including a beard, sideburns, and mustache, and flee to the ferry terminal at Osaka. But despite his attempts to blend in with a hat, sunglasses, and paper mask, he drew the attention of a passerby, leading to his arrest on November 10th, 2009, more than 2.5 years after he became one of Japan's most wanted suspects. Tatsuya Ichihashi was arrested at the ferry terminal in Osaka for the murder of Lindsay Hawker. When he was arrested, some fans on the internet disturbingly expressed their admiration for him, saying he is cool and sexy. A dark cloud hung over Lindsay's family as they urged for Ichihashi to face the ultimate punishment of Japan's death penalty. Yet the defense lawyer stood firm, fighting for Ichihashi's right to live. Their argument: the death penalty was unjustified as Ichihashi had no prior criminal record, and at only 32 years of age, there remained a glimmer of hope for rehabilitation. In court, Tatsuya finally confessed to sexually assaulting and murdering Lindsay Hawker, but with a twisted tale of accidental death. He claimed he only wanted to silence her cries for help, and he tried to save her and called for help, but evidence to support his words never surfaced. Prosecutors revealed that upon her arrival at the apartment, she was savagely beaten, restrained with tape, and then subjected to unspeakable assault. But in the aftermath of the horrific crime, Tatsuya sought to romanticize his life on the run, publishing a book titled Until the Arrest. In it, he glossed over the gory details of the crime, avoiding any mention of his twisted motives for taking an innocent life. Instead, he recounted the adrenaline-fueled moments of his fugitive existence, always looking over his shoulder. The twisted tale sold like wildfire in both Japan and Britain, with his story even being turned into a movie, I Am Ichihashi, Journal of a Murderer. But the law finally caught up to him, and in July 2011, the Chiba District Court handed down a life sentence for the murder of Lindsay Hawker. For her family and loved ones, justice had finally been served. Lindsay's boyfriend, Ryan Garside, who had been planning to propose to her, lamented the loss of the best thing in my life. If you found this story intriguing, I have other videos on my channel. Share your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more shocking cases like this. Hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest releases.